I pulled the trigger on my own family the day I turned 25, not with a gun, but with a signature on a court document that would unravel their lives like a cheap sweater caught in a barbed wire fence. It wasn't murder. Mind you, just the kind of cold, calculated mercy that leaves scars deeper than bullets ever could. And as the gavel cracked like thunder in that stuffy Des Moines courtroom, echoing off the walls lined with faded portraits of stern-faced judges, I felt the first real crack in my soul, wondering if the girl Grandpa raised from the ashes of abandonment had finally become the monster they'd always whispered I was. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but mine simmered for 2 decades in the humid basements of Iowa summers and the frostbitten winters that turned your fingertips blue. My name's Clara Hayes, and if you think abandonment is the worst a parent can do, you haven't met mine. I was 4 years old when they left me on Grandpa's sagging front porch in Cedar Rapids, a stuffed rabbit clutched in my chubby fists, the screen door banging shut behind me like the final punctuation on their note. We can't do this anymore. She's too much. Too much what? Too loud with my questions? Too needy with my nightmares? Or too much a reminder of the sins they'd buried deeper than the cornfields that swallowed our family secrets? Grandpa didn't sugarcoat it. He scooped me up, his calloused hands from 40 years at the John Deere plant smelling of motor oil and pipe tobacco, and muttered, "Those fools think runnin' fixes a damn thing. We'll fix it our way, kiddo." He was 62 then, a widower with a limp from Nam and a heart full of grudges he wore like his faded army jacket. He raised me on stories of betrayal, how my dad, his only son, had stolen from the family business, how my mom had turned a blind eye while chasing her own highs in the dive bars of Dubuque. But Grandpa never spoke ill of them in front of me. Not outright. He let the silence do the talking, the way he'd pause mid-sentence when their old photos surfaced in the attic boxes, his eyes hardening like river ice. We weren't rich, but we scraped by. Grandpa worked doubles at the factory until his back gave out. Then he drove a cab, picking up drunks from the VFW hall and college kids from the University of Iowa parties. I learned early that money was a ghost, their one shift, gone the next on bills and bologna sandwiches. School was my escape, straight A's, debate club. That one girl who let me crash on her couch when Grandpa's cough got so bad we thought it was the end. He fought it off with black coffee and sheer spite, living just long enough to see me graduate high school valedictorian. "You're the legacy, Clara," he'd rasp, his voice like gravel under tires. "Don't let him take it." He died on a Tuesday in July. The kind of scorcher where the asphalt bubbles and the air smells like burnt rubber. I was 24, fresh out of community college with an associate's in business admin, slinging coffee at a Starbucks in West Des Moines to pay rent on a one-bedroom that smelled like mildew and regret. The call came from the hospital. Massive heart attack. Gone before the paramedics could even intubate. I drove through the rain-slicked streets, wipers slapping like accusations, and held his hand as it cooled, whispering promises I wasn't sure I could keep. The will reading was a week later, in the back office of a lawyer who looked like he'd stepped out of a bad 80s cop show. Cheap to pay, tie askew, coffee breath that could strip paint. Grandpa had left me everything: the house, the '92 Ford pickup with the rusted fenders, and, God help me, $2.7 million from some investment account I'd never known about. He played the market smart, the lawyer said, sliding the papers across the desk. Tech stocks, real estate flips. Said it was for you, to make sure you never ended up like him, scraping by on pride and pennies. I stared at the numbers, black ink on white paper, feeling like I'd been handed a live grenade. $2.7 million. Enough to buy freedom. A fresh start in Chicago or Austin. Maybe even that graphic design degree I'd eyed in catalogs. But freedom's a funny thing when your blood's poisoned by the past. I paid off Grandpa's debts, fixed the roof, and socked the rest away in a trust. Because deep down, I knew the ghosts would come calling. They did. 3 months later, like vultures scenting carrion. A certified letter from a law firm in Chicago, fancy letterhead, all gold embossing and legalese, demanding I contest the will. No, scratch that. Demanding I hand over the inheritance because, as the natural parents, we retain custodial rights to any assets derived from familial lineage. I laughed at first, a bitter bark that echoed in my empty kitchen. But then the tears came, hot and furious, soaking the pages until the ink ran like black tears. My parents, Richard and Lorraine Hayes. Dad, the charming con man who'd once sold fake Rolexes from the trunk of his Impala. Mom, the enabler with her peroxide hair and Valium smile. They'd resurfaced after 21 years, living in some suburb outside the Windy City. Dad running a used car lot that probably laundered more than it sold. Mom volunteering at a food pantry to atone for sins she never named. The letter claimed hardship, medical bills, Dad's recent diagnosis, Mom's emotional duress from past decisions. But buried in the fine print was the real hook. They argued Grandpa had coerced the will, that I'd manipulated him in his vulnerable state, and worst of all, that I owed them for raising me those first 4 years, plus interest compounded by abandonment trauma. I hired a lawyer on contingency, a sharp-eyed woman named Tessa Ruiz who chain-smoked menthols outside the office and called bullshit like it was poetry. This is elder abuse claims flipped on its head, she said, tapping ash into a styrofoam cup. They're betting on your soft heart, Clara. Don't give it to. But my heart wasn't soft. It was calcified. A lump of Iowa limestone that Grandpa had forged in the fires of his own losses. I could have settled. Wire them $100 grand. Call it therapy money, but something primal stirred. A whisper from the girl on the porch. Make them pay. The lawsuit hit the local news like a spark in dry grass. Granddaughter sued by long-lost parents over multi-million inheritance, blared the Des Moines Register, complete with a pixelated photo of me from my high school yearbook, all braces and hopeful eyes. Social media exploded. Abandoned ensued, trending on Twitter, with armchair therapists dissecting my daddy issues and MAGA uncles ranting about entitled millennials hoarding boomer gold. I became a meme. A cautionary tale, the heartless heiress versus the prodigal parents. Friends I'd lost touch with texted condolences, laced with judgment. Are they really that bad? Family's family. Tessa prepped me for depositions, drilling me on timelines like a boot camp sergeant. Stick to facts. Clara. No tears. No, they left me with a teddy bear sob stories. Juries eat empathy for breakfast, but judges swallow truth whole. I nodded, but inside, the rage brewed, a dark ale of what-ifs and whys. Why now? Why me? Grandpa's will was ironclad, notarized with witnesses who swore he was sharp as a tack till the end. But Dad's lawyer, a slick operator named Harlan Voss, spun webs of doubt. Medical records fudged to show Grandpa's cognitive decline, affidavits from neighbors claiming I'd isolated him. Lies. All of it. But lies have teeth when backed by desperation. The first hearing was a circus. Court TV picked it up, turning our family feud into daytime drama fodder. I sat in the gallery, heart hammering like a V8 engine, watching Mom dab at crocodile tears while Dad shot me glances, half apology, half accusation. He looked older than his 58 years, Paunch straining his button down. But his eyes? Those were the same, calculating, like a poker player bluffing a full house. When the judge, a no-nonsense woman named Hargrove with silver hair and a gavel that could crack walnuts, called recess, he cornered me in the hallway. "Clara." "Honey," he said, voice low and oily, like the undercarriage of a lemon he'd once flipped. "This ain't personal. We're just trying to survive. Your grandpa. He kept things from us. You know? Things that would have changed everything." I yanked my arm free. The scent of his Old Spice cologne, a ghost from childhood nightmares, churning my stomach. "Survival? You left me to die on a porch." "Dad. Don't lecture me on survival." He flinched, but his eyes narrowed. That old schemer peeking through. "You think you're the only one who suffered? Ask your mother about the nights she cried herself raw." "We had reasons, kid. Reasons deeper than you can imagine. Reasons." The word hung like smoke, promising secrets I'd long suspected but never chased. Grandpa had hinted at them. Dad's trouble in the 90s. A hushed-up scandal that sent him running before I could walk. Drugs? Theft? Something worse? I filed it away, steeling myself for the war ahead. Little did I know, the first shot in my revenge would fire from the unlikeliest barrel, my own buried guilt. As the hearing wrapped, with Hargrove denying their motion to dismiss, but scheduling full discovery, I drove home through cornfields golden under harvest lights, radio crackling with talk show hosts debating my morality. "Is she a victim or a vulture?" one opined, her voice syrupy with faux concern. I gripped the wheel till my knuckles blanched, vowing silently, I'd drag their skeletons into the light, make the world see the monsters beneath the prodigal masks. But revenge, I learned that night, staring at Grandpa's old army photo on the mantel, demands a price. And mine would be paid in blood ties severed forever. Discovery hit like a freight train derailing in slow motion, documents piling up on Tess's desk like autumn leaves after a gale. Each one a jagged edge slicing deeper into the myth of my idyllic abandonment. We subpoenaed their bank records first, expecting the usual sob story of poverty, evictions, overdrafts, maybe a GoFundMe for Dad's cancer that turned out to be a bad case of acid reflux. What we got instead was a roadmap to middle-class mediocrity laced with rot. They'd clawed their way to a split level in Schaumburg, Illinois, 2.2 kids tuition paid, a timeshare in Cancun, Dad's car lot pulling 6 figures after taxes. No desperation there, just greed sharpened to a stiletto point. "They're not broke," Tessa said, exhaling smoke rings that danced like specters in her office light. "They're bored. Midlife crisis meets empty nest. And you're the piñata with the cash filling." She flipped through statements, highlighting wire transfers to offshore accounts, nothing illegal on the surface, but shady enough to raise eyebrows. "And looky here, payments to a PI firm last year. They were watching you, Clara." Before Grandpa even kicked, the revelation landed like a sucker punch. Stalked. Scoped out like a mark in one of Dad's old cons. I imagine them in some dimly lit den, sifting photos of my barista shifts and double dates, calculating my net worth like appraisers at a pawn shop. It fueled the fire, turned simmer to boil. I started digging on my own, nights lost to Ancestry.com rabbit holes and cold calls to old neighbors, piecing together the puzzle Grandpa had left half-solved. That's when the first secret clawed its way out. Dad hadn't just stolen from the family business. He'd torched it. It was 1993, the year before they ditched me. Grandpa's auto parts shop, Hayes Hardware, a staple on First Avenue since Eisenhower, was insured for peanuts.
But Dad,
Fresh off a gambling binge in Council Bluffs, saw opportunity in ashes. He rigged the wiring, poured the accelerant, and watched it burn from across the street, pocketing a payout that vanished into blackjack tables and Mom's retail therapy sprees. Grandpa covered for him, ate the blame, told the cops it was faulty stock, rebuilt from scraps with his bare hands. Family first, he'd say, but his eyes would cloud, the weight of that lie bending his spine a little more each year. And me? I bore the brunt without knowing. The fire's fallout meant no college fund for Dad. No safety net when Mom's pregnancies tanked, 2 miscarriages before me. Each one a ghost she blamed on stress from the shop. They spiraled. Dad into coke-fueled rages. Mom into pills that left her vacant-eyed. I was the scapegoat before I could talk, the miracle baby who arrived too late to save them from themselves. When the debts mounted and the whispers grew, they bolted, leaving me as collateral damage. Grandpa never told me the full truth, just enough to inoculate against pity. They chose their poison. Clara, you choose your path, but paths twist, and mine forked hard when Voss, Dad's lawyer, dropped the counterclaim bomb during our next deposition. We met in a conference room that smelled of stale donuts and desperation. Fluorescent buzz overhead like a migraine in waiting. I sat ramrod straight, Tessa at my elbow, as Voss, a weasel in pinstripes with a comb-over that screamed roid rage, unveiled their ace, Grandpa's confession letter, dated a month before his death. Handwritten, shaky script on yellowed legal pad, I covered for Richard in '93. The fire was him. Insurance money was ours. But I kept it for Clara. Repay the debt, or the truth comes out. My blood turned to ice water. Forged? No, Grandpa's scrawl. Down to the looped G's he picked up from army telegrams. He'd written it. All right. A deathbed absolution meant for me. Slipped into a safe deposit box with the will. How Voss got it?
bribe,
Break-in, or betrayal, didn't matter. The implication hung heavy. The inheritance was tainted, stolen from my parents' rightful claim. Voss leaned in, breath mints masking whiskey, and murmured, "Settle, Miss Hayes. Or we go public. Your grandpa's a hero no more, just an old man burying his boy's crimes." I wanted to lunge across the table, rake nails down that smug face. But Tessa's hand on my knee grounded me. "We'll authenticate," she said coolly, but her eyes betrayed the worry. Later, over takeout lo mein in her Prius. She laid it out. The letter shifted leverage.
Jury l'œuvre de rédemption arc, prodigal son.
Penitent father. If it stuck, I could lose half, maybe more, in reparations. But worse, the scandal. Headlines screaming Grandpa's arson cover-up, the inheritance lie. My fresh start?
Torched.
Rage morphed into strategy that night, pacing Grandpa's creaky floors as cicadas screamed outside. Revenge wasn't just winning the suit, it was exposing them, layer by flaying layer. I hired my own PI, a grizzled ex-cop named Marty with a bum knee and a nose for bullshit, and set him loose on their skeletons. What he unearthed in 2 weeks made the fire look like a campfire tale. Dad wasn't just a one-time arsonist. The 90s marked the start of a string: insurance fraud in Iowa, a bounce check scam in Wisconsin, even a whisper of involvement in a chop shop ring-up near Madison. He'd flipped states like bad bets, always one step ahead of warrants that never quite stuck, cops on payroll, judges with favors owed. Mom? Complicit. Her volunteer work, a front for laundering petty cash through church bake sales. But the kicker, a sealed juvenile record for Dad, cracked open by Marty's back channels. At 16, he'd beaten a kid half to death over a drug debt, skull fractures, coma, the works. Grandpa pulled strings then too, pleading it down to misdemeanor assault, shipping Dad to reform school instead of juvie hell. It painted them not as victims, but villains in denial, serial schemers who'd birthed me as an afterthought, then discarded me when the con soured. Armed with files, I pushed Tessa for a countermotion. Fraud. Defamation. The works. Bury 'em, I said, voice steady as rebar. But as we filed, doubt crept in like fog off the Mississippi. Was I avenging Grandpa? Or just proving I was their daughter after all, cut from the same cloth of cunning and cutthroat? The media frenzy amped up. Paparazzi staking out my Starbucks shift, forcing me to quit for a gig waitressing at a dive called the Rusty Nail, where the tips were greasy and the patrons leered like they owned the joint. One night, mid-shift, Mom showed up, unannounced, slipping through the beaded curtain like a specter in scrubs, her hair a frizzy halo under the neon Budweiser sign. She ordered black coffee, hands trembling as she slid into a booth. And when I approached, her eyes, blue like mine, but webbed with regret, locked on. Clara.
Please. Seek.
Just for a minute. Her voice cracked, Midwestern lilt softened by Chicago winters. I hesitated, tray balanced like a shield, but the barflies were watching, so I slid in opposite, the vinyl seat sighing under me. What do you want? Mom? Another summons? She winced, fishing a crumpled photo from her purse, me at 4. Gap-toothed grin on Grandpa's porch swing. The very day they left. I kept this. Every day, I think about that swing. How you waved goodbye like it was a game. Tears welled, but I didn't soften. We were drowning. Baby. Your dad. He wasn't always like this. The fire. It broke him. And me, I was weak. Pills. Mostly. But we tried to come back. You know, once. When you were 8. Grandpa sent us packing. The admission hit like buckshot, unverified, but plausible. Grandpa's fortress mentality. His no trespassing signs literal and figurative. Why now? I pressed, voice low to dodge the jukebox's twang. The money? She shook her head.
Fierce.
At first, yeah. But it's more. Dad's sick for real this time. Liver. From the booze. Docs give him months, if he's lucky. Lie or truth. Her eyes pleaded. But I'd learned to read cons. And there's something else.
About you.
The reason we really left. My pulse thrummed. Fork forgotten in my eggs over easy. Spit it out. She leaned in, voice a whisper over the clink of glasses. You weren't planned, Clara. But you were. Special. A secret we kept, even from Grandpa. It wasn't just the fire. It was you, carrying something we couldn't. Cryptic bullshit. The kind that hooks you before the drop. Before I could demand clarity, Dad burst through the door, face thunderous, spotting us like a hawk on a field mouse. Lorraine, what the hell? He grabbed her arm, yanking her up, and for a split second, I saw the abuser from that juvenile file. Veins bulging.
Control fraying.
Get your hands off her, I snapped. On my feet. Adrenaline surging. He rounded on me, breath hot with fear. Stay out of it, girl. You think you're better? You're Hayes' blood, liars and losers. Everyone. Then he dragged her out into the gravel lot, taillights flaring red as they peeled away. I stood there, fists clenched, the photo she'd left behind fluttering to the floor like a white flag surrendered. Special? Carrying something? The hook sank deep, pulling me toward waters I wasn't ready to swim. Revenge sharpened, but now it cut both ways, my blade aimed at them, but nicking my own certainties. As I pocketed the photo, vowing to unravel her riddle, I wondered, what if the real betrayal wasn't theirs, but Grandpa's silence, leaving me to inherit not just money, but a curse disguised as legacy? The next morning, Marty called with fresh dirt. Dad's cancer was a ploy, but the liver damage? Real. From years of chasing highs. And Mom's secret? Whispers of an affair. A half-sibling shipped off to relatives. The web tightened, and I dove deeper, plotting my strike. Little did I know, the counterpunch would come from within, from the one person I'd trusted above all. Marty's report landed in my inbox at 2 a.m., a PDF bomb ticking with timestamps and grainy surveillance stills that turned my kitchen into a war room. There she was, Mom, Lorraine Hayes,
Nick Kowalski.
Slipping cash to a strung-out kid in a Wrigleyville alley, her face half-shadowed by a hoodie, but unmistakable, the anxious hunch of shoulders, the quick glance over her shoulder. Date stamped 6 months back, right around when they filed the suit. Not just complicity, active dealing. Small time. Maybe weed, pills, but enough to flip the script from victims to villains proper. I forwarded it to Tessa with a single line, weaponize this.
Hard.
She called at dawn, voice gravel from a night of depositions. You're playing with napalm, Clara. This could tank their credibility, but if it leaks premature, we're the ones looking dirty.
Pause.
Then, you sure? Once we pull this thread, the whole sweater unravels, their marriage, your childhood myths, all of it. Sure as sunrise over the fields, I lied, coffee bitter on my tongue. Truth was, the photo from the diner haunted me. Mom's words looping like a bad country ballad. You were special. Carrying something we couldn't. I'd scoured Grandpa's attic till my knees bruised. Old letters. Ledgers. A lockbox of Polaroids showing Dad in juvie stripes. Mom pregnant and pale. Nothing concrete. Just echoes. But Marty's latest lead pointed to a clinic in Rockford, fertility treatments, 89 vintage. Unexplained infertility. Then me, a miracle conception that didn't add up. Donor? Affair? Or darker, something experimental. Hushed up in the pre-internet haze? I pushed it down, focusing on the offensive. We filed the motion to dismiss that week, citing fraud and perjury, attaching redacted exhibits that painted my parents as grifters extraordinaire. The press ate it up. Heiress strikes back, parents' dark past exposed, with talking heads on Fox and CNN trading barbs like it was WrestleMania. Entitled Brat versus Desperate Folks. One pundit sneered, "Karma's a bitch. And she's got a trust fund." Crowed another. I avoided mirrors. The woman staring back too fierce. Too fractured, Grandpa's grit laced with Dad's guile. Then came the flip. Voss countered with a settlement offer lowball. $500,000. Non-disclosure attached like a gag order. Tessa advised pass. I did, but not before leaking a teaser to a blogger pal from college, just enough to spark Hayes hypocrites. Anonymous posts dripping with Marty's details. Deniability intact. But the damage bloomed, Dad's car lot reviews tanked with one-star rants about crooked cons, Mom's church ladies whispering over potlucks. Revenge tasted sweet, like forbidden pie at the state fair. But it soured quick when the calls started.
Anonymous tips.
Heavy breathers at first, then specifics. Check the river.
Haze.
93 wasn't the only fire. I traced one to a burner phone, another to a library computer in Peoria. Paranoia set in, curtains drawn. .38 Grandpa left in the nightstand, oiled and loaded. Marty upped his game, tailing Dad to a meet with Voss in a loop parking garage. Recording whispers of "bury the donor file" and "Clara's the leverage." Donor file. There it was again, the secret snaking through the cracks.
I confronted Mom via burner, voicemail.
My voice disguised low. Rockford 89. What did you do? She called back frantic, patched through Tessa's line for safety. Clara, stop digging. It's not what you think. We loved you, God.
We did.
But your dad. He flipped when we found out. Said you weren't his. That it was all a setup. Hysterical sobs. Then click. Not his. The ground tilted. My world axis shifting. Paternity fraud? Grandpa's cover-up extended to bloodlines? The evidence piled like storm clouds. Clinic records Marty bribed from a nurse's guilty conscience. Sperm donor 478. High IQ profile to fix Dad's deficiencies. Mom's affair? No. A desperate grasp at normalcy. Approved by Dad until the bill came due. They'd fought. Split the money from the fire to fund it. Then when I arrived colicky and perfect, the guilt crashed. Dad bolted first. Mom followed. Both convinced I was a lab experiment, not their miracle.
Grandpa?
He known doctored the birth cert. Raised me as Hayes to spare the shame. His will, not just legacy, but restitution for the lies he'd layered to protect us all. It shattered me. That revelation. Curled on the porch swing in the chill October dusk, rocking till splinters bit my thighs. Betrayed? By all of them, parents who rejected their own creation. Grandpa who played God with half-truths. The lawsuit morphed from defense to dirge. My revenge a hollow echo. But hollow things echo loudest. And I channeled it into the kill shot, a press conference, scripted by Tessa, where I dropped the full dossier, arson, fraud, the donor bomb, framing it as truth for healing. Dad beat me to the punch. He showed up at dawn, pounding the door like Judgment Day, face gaunt under the porch light. Let me in, Clara. Before you do something stupid. I cracked it. Chain taut. Glock heavy in my robe pocket. He looked wrecked, eyes bloodshot. Stubble silver-flecked. Voss is out. Told me everything.
The file.
The clinic, it's all true. But there's more. I didn't just flip. I hurt someone. Because of you. He collapsed onto the steps, spilling it in gasps. Post-donor. Paranoia gripped him, convinced the clinic was a front for some government experiment, that I was marked. He torched the shop not for insurance, but to erase records, to run before they came for us. Then the beating in juvie, practice runs, rage at a system that stole his seed. Controversial? Hell. It was certifiable, delusions fed by untreated PTSD from his own abandoned youth. Mom's enabling the gasoline on his fire. I came back for you, he wheezed, tears carving tracks in dirt. That time when you were 8, we were clean, ready.
But your grandpa.
He said you'd hate us, that we'd ruin you. So we flipped again, stayed away, The lawsuit? Desperation. Liver's real.
Clara. And now,
With this out. He trailed off, pulling a flask, swigging deep. Mercy flickered, Stockholm soft, but I quashed it. Too late. Dad. You built this pyre. Burn on it. I slammed the door. But not before seeing the defeat in his slump. A mirror of Grandpa's last days. As he drove off, taillights fading into mist, I filed the motion to unseal everything donor docs. Psych evals Marty unearthed from Dad's 90s stint in county lockup. The climax loomed. Trial in 2 weeks. Hargrove's courtroom a coliseum for our gladiatorial grudge. Readers, hell. The world would split. Was I avenger or abuser? Exposing mental illness for clicks? Were they monsters or madmen? Products of a broken American dream, where clinics peddle perfect kids and families fracture on the wheel of want. Tessa warned of backlash. This divides juries. Clara. Makes pick sides in gray. But gray was the point, no heroes. Just humans hemorrhaging history. As I prepped testimony, rehearsing lines till my throat rawed, Mom's final plea echoed, carrying something we couldn't.
what?
The weight of their wreckage? Or literal some genetic glitch from the donor? A time bomb in my veins? Tests pending. But the fear gnawed, turning revenge to reckoning. I'd win the war. But at what cost to the girl on the swing? Forever chasing closure in a rearview mirror? The night before opening arguments, I dreamed of fire, not the shop, but the clinic ablaze. Me in the flames. Donor vials shattering like promises. Woke sweating. Resolved. Tomorrow.
Ide testifi.
Lay it bare. But twists. As Grandpa said, come unbidden, and mine slithered in with the dawn mail, a manila envelope. No return. Contents spilling like Pandora's guts.
Photos me.
Asleep in my bed last week. Stalker? Saboteur? And a note. Scrawled in familiar loops. Stop. Or the real secret dies with you.
G. Grandpa? Impossible.
But the G. His. Heart pounding. I called Marty. Trace it. As sirens wailed distant, cops? Fire trucks? I realized the betrayal ran deeper. Roots tangled in graves. And my revenge?
It was just foreplay.
The envelope's contents burned hotter than any dossier. Those photos of violations slick as oil on water, me tangled in sheets. Window cracked to the night breeze. Unaware of the lens lurking in the oaks. 9 shots. Time-stamped 3:14 a.m. to 3:47. Angles impossible without a ladder or drone. The note's ink bled slightly, as if written in haste. But the signature, G, mocked from the page. Grandpa's ghost penning posthumous threats. Stop, or the real secret dies with you. Cryptic as Mom's diner whisper, but laced with menace that turned my safe haven into a sieve. Marty arrived at noon, his Crown Vic crunching gravel like bones, face etched with the wear of too many stakeouts. Forensic trace first, he grunted, gloving up to bag the evidence.
No prints.
No fibers, just drugstore paper and a postmark from downtown Des Moines. Dropped yesterday. Could be anyone playing games. Voss, your old man. Desperate flip. He dusted for lifts anyway. But my gut screamed deeper, the donor rabbit hole. That clinic file with its redacted pages hinting at proprietary protocols. What if 478 wasn't just sperm, but a subject in some black-budget eugenics wet dream? The kind conspiracy forums frothed over? Trial loomed like a guillotine blade. Hargrove's docket packed. Our case slotted for Monday. I spent the weekend barricaded, blinds sealed, sleeping with the Glock under pillow like a talisman. Tessa drafted contingencies, motion for continuance if the stalker panned credible threat. But I nixed it.
No dilas.
We end this. Secretly, I wired Marty extra, dig the clinic, cross-reference donors with Hayes anomalies. His prelim hit Sunday night, 478 linked to a defunct DARPA adjunct, 80s-era enhanced cognition trials. High IQ donors. Sure, but whispers of nootropics. Gene tweaks, fringe stuff dismissed as Cold War paranoia. Except one name popped, Dr. Elias Grant, lead researcher, vanished 95.
Présumé de suicide.
And his daughter?
Elena Grant. Nee heish mom es made an alias in forged docs.
The pieces slotted with a click that chilled. Mom wasn't just complicit, she was the architect. Kowalski?
Cover.
The affair tale? Smoke. She'd posed as a patient, seduced the donor protocol for a fix to Dad's flaws, birthing me as their designer redemption. Grandpa discovered post-fire, covered it to shield the family name, Hayes' pride over Hayes' shame. The note? Not Grandpa, but a callback, G for Grant. Elena's buried past resurfacing to silence me before trial exposed the lab rat lineage. Rage crested, a tidal wave crashing my resolve. No more defense. This was scorched earth. I fed Tessa the leads anonymously through Marty, laundered via a Dropbox, letting her uncover them in court. Plausible deniability. Maximum impact. As opening arguments dawned, gray skies spitting sleet over the Capitol dome, I strode into the courthouse armored in wool coat and war paint makeup. Paparazzi flashes popping like muzzle fire. The gallery swelled. True crime podcasters. Even a producer sniffing miniseries rights. Hargrove banged in, robes swirling like a storm front, and Voss rose first, silver-tongued, painting my parents as everyman casualties, abandonment born of addiction, reunion forged in forgiveness. This suit, a cry for connection, thwarted by a granddaughter's greed. He gestured to Dad, slumped in spectator pews, looking every inch the condemned, yellowed skin, cough rattling like loose change. Mom beside him, clutching rosary beads, eyes downcast in practiced piety. Tessa countered fierce, voice slicing the hush. Connection? Try extortion. Plaintiff's history of fraud, from arson to narcotics, belies their pleas.
And today,
we unveil the lie at the heart, a fabricated family, built on deception and desperation. She cued the projector. Marty stills flickering large, alley deals, chop shop manifests, the donor file's damning seal. Gasps rippled. Voss objected futilely as Hargrove allowed, her gaze sharpening like a hawk on prey. Cross-exams gutted them. Dad took the stand first, swearing on a Bible that quivered in his grip. I love my daughter, he croaked, voice amplified for the mics. The fire? Mistake of youth. The suit? To make amends.
Desapunst. Amant via pays surveillance?
Or was it to monitor your lab creation? She dropped the Grant bomb, Elena's alias. The DARPA ties, photos of Mom's clinic intake morphing to patient zero profiles. Dad blanched, stammering. That's twisted. Lies. But the jury leaned in, faces a mosaic of shock and schadenfreude. Mom followed, crumbling under lights. We were broken.
Yes.
But Clara, she was our hope. The clinic. It promised normalcy. I never meant. Tessa interrupted with the voicemail transcript. Mom's own words. You were special, carrying something. Something like experimental genes?
Tessa pressed.
A secret worth suing over. To keep buried. The courtroom crackled. Tension thick as humidity before a twister. Voss flipped desperate. Calling character witnesses, church pastor, AA sponsor, spinning mom's dealing as relapse redemption, dad's frauds as flawed but faithful. Controversial calls flew. Hargrove sustained half Tessa's objections, but allowed Voss's psych eval on me, possible abandonment trauma manifesting as vindictiveness. The gallery murmured. Twitter lit up. Is Clara the villain? Exposing family for clout? Family feud. I testified last. First person raw as a gut shot. They left me at 4. A teddy in my arms. Because I wasn't theirs enough. Grandpa raised me on truths half told, leaving me this fortune and this fight. I met their eyes across the well. Dad's pleading. Mom shattered and dropped the stalker photos, tying them to Voss's firm via IP traces. Even now,
They threaten.
but I'm done hiding. The money's mine, blood-bought. Life-forged. Let the world judge. Rebuttal sealed it. Marty's affidavit on the note. Ink analysis matching Elena's old journals. Procured from a storage unit raid. Mom's flip complete. Not victim, but vector. Her something. A genetic gamble that birthed a daughter too sharp for their shadows. Dad? The enabler turned arsonist. His decisions torching legacies, beating doubts, mirroring mine in miniature. No one clean. All complicit in the American alchemy of aspiration to atrocity. As Hargrove adjourned for deliberations, the divide cracked wide. Reporters mobbed me outside. Hero or harpy? While online forums split. Half hailing my empowerment takedown, half decrying public pillory of the mentally ill. Dad cornered me in the lot. Rain sheeting down. Voice breaking. You win. Clara. But what did it cost? We're done, liver or no. He hugged me then. Clumsy. Reeking of regret. And for a heartbeat, I leaned in Stockholm flicker before shoving free. You cost me everything first. Live with it. Mom watched from the sedan. Face a mask of decisions regretted too late. As they drove into the downpour, I felt the twist coil, victory's edge blunted by the mirror they held, me, the revenger, flipping faces from victim to vigilante. Deliberations dragged 2 days. Jury sequestered in a hotel buzzing with our saga. I waited in Grandpa's house. .38 close. The envelopes echo mocking. The real secret dies with you. What more? The donor's legacy, a predisposition to rage. To schemes, tests loomed. But first, the verdict. It dropped Thursday. Hargrove's voice steady. Full dismissal. Sanctions on plaintiffs for frivolous filing, $50K in fees. Plus a restraining order. Cheers from Tessa's corner. But mine rang hollow. The gallery's applause a hollow thunder. I won the war. But the peace?
Scout terrain.
Family a minefield I'd mapped, but never crossed clean. Outside. Sleet turning to snow. A figure waited, tall. Coat collar up. Face half lit by street lamp. Not Dad. Not Marty. Clara Hayes. Male. Midwest drawl. Extending a card. Elias Grant Jr. Attorney at law. Estate of Elena Grant. Mom's brother? The ghost son? We need to talk. About what you carry. The hook sank final. Pulling me from triumph to terror's brink. Revenge sated. But the real vendetta? Just awakening. Grant Jr., call him Eli. As he insisted over black coffee in a diner off I-80. Vinyl booths sticky with syrup ghosts. unraveled the final thread with the precision of a surgeon who'd cut his teeth on classifieds.
50-ish.
Wire-rimmed specs magnifying eyes like chipped flint. He slid across a dossier thicker than Tess's discovery dump, redacted FOIAs, clinic blueprints, even a grainy VHS still of DR.
Elias Senor.
In a white coat, gesturing to petri dishes like a mad evangelist. Dad didn't suicide, Eli said, stirring sugar into sludge without looking up. Disappeared. After Elena, your mother, pilfered the protocol. She wasn't a patient. She was an inside job. Cleaner, actually. Scrubbed the labs while posing as a nurse. Swiped vials for Richard's fix. The diner hummed around us, truckers jawing over pie. A jukebox crooning Garth Brooks, but my world narrowed to his words. Each a scalpel parting flesh.
Mom.
The enabler? No, the engineer. Her Valium haze a cover for calculated chaos. Dad's rage? Fueled by her whispers of superior seed, turning inadequacy to inferno.
Grandpa?
Collateral. His cover-up's a dam against the flood of her ambition. And you, I pressed, voice thin as the coffee steam.
Why now?
After the trial, Eli's smile didn't reach his eyes. A lawyer's mask honed on depositions. Because you stirred the nest. Miss Hayes. Unsealed files flagged my radar, private alert on the DARPA archives. Elena's dead. You know. Overdose. Last year. Official story, relapse. Truth?
Suicide.
After Richard pushed the suit. Blamed you in her note, not malice, but the weight of what she made.
He tapped the dossier. You.
Protocol Omega, not just IQ boost. Behavioral modifiers, aggression inhibitors laced with enhancements. Dad's theory, engineer empathy out of the equation. Breed leaders unburdened by guilt. Cold War relic. Buried cause it worked too well. Worked too well. The words echoed, syncing with the dreams of fire. The ease with which I'd weaponized their wreckage. My hands trembled, spilling creamer, white rivulets like spilled secrets. So I'm...
What?
A lab rat with a trust fund. Worse, Eli said, leaning in, voice dropping to conspirator's timbre. A success. High agency. Low remorse, textbook Omega. But flawed. The inhibitors faded, leaving the rage unbound. Explains Richard's flips. Elena's schemes.
And you?
The lawsuit woke it. Your revenge? Not vengeance. Clara. Instinct. Instinct. The verdict's cheers soured to nausea. The courtroom went a programmed pirouette. I bolted to the bathroom, retching into porcelain chipped as my certainties, staring at a reflection warped by fluorescent mercy. Special. Carrying something. Not a curse, but code, DNA scripted for dominance. Deployed in a heartland petri dish. Grandpa knew? His legacy speech. The market savvy he'd just picked up, symptoms of a splice. Or his own buried exposure from hauling clinic waste in his cab days.
Elevated.
Unfazed. Sliding a thumb drive across the Formica. Full schematics. Test yourself. 23andMe won't cut it. Need a black market sequencer. But decide quick. Others know. The Institute's successors. Sniffing loose ends. That stalker? Not your folks. Recovery team. Tying off threads. He stood, dropping a 20. Your family.
Distant.
But blood calls. Join. Or run. Elena chose run. Look where it got her.
Family.
The word mocked as he vanished into snow-swept parking. Taillights swallowed by whiteout. I drove home blind, wipers futile against the blizzard. Mind a maelstrom. The will's $2.7 million? Tainted seed money. Perhaps funneled through Grandpa's investments to fund my escape. The suit, Mom's final flip, desperation to reclaim her creation before it consumed her. Dad's hug in the rain, genuine, or genetic echo. Father to engineer daughter? Tessa called en route.
Jubilant, sanction cleared.
You're free. Clara, new life. Austin skyline waiting.
Free.
I laughed. Manic. The sound swallowed by howl. Arriving home, I booted the drive, files cascading, subject logs. 478's profile, anonymous vet, PTSD volunteer. Efficacy charts spiking at enhanced retribution protocols. My symptoms? Check. Calculated risks?
Moral ambiguity.
The thrill of the takedown. The twist landed final. Debatable as a jury poll. Was I revenger by choice?
Or chimera by design?
No happy ending. No tidy tragedy, just ambiguity. The American way. Where bootstraps hide puppet strings. I torched it all that night. Drive in the fireplace. Flames devouring code like the shop in '93. Ashes stirred to dust. No tests, knowledge is a cage. The stalker note? Planted bait. Eli's olive branch or trap?
Didn't matter.
I sold the house. Wired Tessa her cut. And hit the road west. Ford pickup groaning under box ghosts. Radio tuned to static prayers. Cedar Rapids shrank rear view. Iowa flats yielding to Nebraska plains. Endless under sodium stars. Months blurred. Denver crash pad. Freelance graphic gigs masking the itch to scheme. Whispers followed, Clara curse trending anew. Podcasters spinning Omega conspiracies from trial scraps. Dad? Liver claimed him spring. Quiet obit in the register. Beloved husband. Father. Mom vanished. Rumors of a convent in Wisconsin. Rosaries her new con.
Ellie.
Silent. But cards arrived quarterly, consulting offers. Veiled. I burned them. Unopened. One dawn in Taos. Sketching ad layouts by Adobe Firelight. The decision crystallized, no sides. No feed, just survival. Raw as the girl on the porch. Revenge? A phase. Shed like snakeskin. The real hook, forgiveness. Not for them, but me, the hybrid heart beating steady. Unmodified by grace. I called a sequencer contact from Eli's drive. Results pinging clean, no markers. Just haze grit. Kowalski cunning. Placebo? Or Grandpa's last lie? Swapping vials to free me? Debate rages in mirrors now. Success or slight?
Happy?
In the ambiguity. Yes, tragic in the what-ifs. As snow dusts the song grays. I raise a toast to ghosts, to legacies unclaimed, secrets unburied. The swing creaks empty back east. But here, in the vast American maybe, I swing free. Or so I tell myself. Till the next card drops.